Welcome to Creative Current, a podcast for those of us who want to get caught up in our creativity.
We're Jess and Jen, two friends and creatives who met in tech and realized we both spoke the same language of possibility, imagination, and creation.
We believe that creativity is a living force, powerful and magnetic. Like a current, you don't control it. And when you stop fighting it and let it move you, you realize it leads you to where you wanted to be all along.
This podcast is about staying with that current through self-doubt, uncertainty, and loneliness, and trusting that your creativity is worth it.
Over the next 12 weeks, we'll be following the artist's way, and we'll be discussing the chapters and our experiences doing the work. We see it as an opportunity to explore the depths of creativity and its connection to life's biggest questions and possibilities in a collaborative, community-building way.
We're really glad you're here. Okay, we are on week 5 of The Artist's Way, and this chapter is titled Recovering the Sense of Possibility. Jen, I don't know about you, but I loved this chapter. The themes that came up for me were abundance and trying to unearth where we may have limiting thoughts on that, being on the river of flow, and then she talks about the virtue trap and how that's really about artists abandoning ourselves in different ways to please others. So yeah, it was a meaty chapter examining what is possible and how do we limit ourselves and not limit ourselves. So how was this week in this chapter for you, Jen?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, I'm like just looking through the pages as you were saying that, and I have all these notes in here, so it felt so applicable to what I was working on. And it's so funny because I was writing my notes about a program that I was launching and how I was like, oh, well, wait, this isn't an actual limitation that I have. This isn't like what I'm bound to. I can change this. And it's really funny where I'm like writing my new ideas like, well, could I do it this way? Could I do this? Like, well, what about this? And so much possibility. And on the end of the week, I completely changed a program that I was offering because I was like, well, this isn't working for me anymore. It's not selling the way that I needed it to for this format to work. And let's just change the format.
My gosh. Wait, that's amazing. I kind of want to like dip right into that. Well, okay, before we get into that, Jen, like any other big call outs for you from this week?
I'm trying to find the virtue trap section right
Yeah.
now because I do remember that one being like, oh, wow, like that felt like deep conditioning that I feel like I've been working through. Like, do you know the spiral illustration? Okay,
No.
like a spiral of growth is like, or when you think about growth, it's like, think of yourself on a spiral going up, or I suppose you could be on a spiral going down depending on where you want to go, but yeah, you like usually up, like, but like that's the path to growth. And so if you're on a spiral, then anything that's kind of a cut or a wound or a limitation, like it kind of like cuts through the spiral. And so you encounter it, but then you're growing and you're evolving, you keep going, but then you like encounter it in new ways. Like you keep encountering. That's why I think these patterns keep showing up in our lives, because you keep encountering it again. And it's not that you didn't get past it. It's not that you didn't grow through it. It's not that you didn't like evolve and change and shift, but it's like you keep encountering it because it's kind of like that's part of your life's work.
I love that.
The virtue trap, I would say, would be like somewhere in my spiral because that was, and again, I need to maybe look at the notes again to say especially what Julia Cameron calls it. But when I read it, I was like, oh, yeah, like that's something like past me definitely was totally stuck by. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, Jess, what about you? Anything that really I guess affected you in your life while you were reading this chapter?
Yes. Oh man, where do I want to start this? I realized through the exercises, and I think it's around the virtue trap as well, that I so much more carve out time for the quote unquote responsible tasks in my life, but not the creative In other words, like irresponsible tasks in my life. She also talks about, well, she asks as an exercise, what are your favorite creative blocking activities? And it's like, is it watching TV? Is it, and this was written in 1992, I think. So for
That's a
me,
great context to have,
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So for me, it's a little bit of Instagram. Sometimes the rescuing others for sure. Like I would much rather stay on a phone call with a friend, unpacking and helping them get to realizations than dealing with a blank page. So the summary of that for me, and I really had to sit and chew on this for a minute, but all of those other, well, not Instagram and TV, but like some of those other activities were classified as the more responsible things, like contract work. That's fine, but the problem is I'm not giving myself the gift of the same amount of time for my creative work. And I think she starts the chapter with, um, are you taking the flow of creativity from the universe? Are you taking that request seriously enough? Are you taking your own vision seriously enough? And that is something that I feel like I am in the active process of healing. So yeah, I just noticed that it's not as easy for me based on old conditioning patterns. Yeah.
I mean, it is also a huge transition. I mean, like just for giving some, you
Mm.
know, a grace reminder here is like, I mean that is such a hard decision to make. Like you have just, made the leap, leaving the job, and then you have contract requests coming in, which first of all is amazing. Like celebrate that. Like how cool. Like needs are being met. Like of
Absolutely. Yeah.
course, of course it's going to be like yes, like let's prioritize that. And then as soon as you have work again in the picture, you do need to prioritize the things that make you well in order to be able to do that work, so then you still have the capacity to like do the creative thing. Like it is like a vicious, like you do need to
Yeah.
exercise. Like
Yeah.
it's all and I don't know, I think too it's like I think creativity and creative acts in this specific scenario that you shared is so much bigger than like sitting down to write too. I mean, I think that the fact that you are looking at contract inquiries of your services, that you're responding to them, that you're like navigate, like that is incredibly creative. Because what you're doing is if you do that and you're like, oh yeah, I don't need to be worried anymore. Like I will be taken care of. I can do this. Like maybe I take this contract that doesn't feel like a perfect fit right now, but like it sets me up with proof of concept. It makes me know, like helps me to figure out how I want to define my services better, so that then the next time it comes, I can get more of alignment, and like you maybe never ever need to go back to another job.
That's
And like you more
yeah.
and more are able to carve out time where like the dynamics shifts of like what comes first
Mm.
and what work comes first, but it's like that I believe is like incredibly creative. Like it doesn't need to be the producing art necessarily,
Yeah. Yeah.
even though I know it's important to you to do that also.
That's a really great point. Okay, I have a comment and then I have a question for you. But okay, I love that reframe, Jen, so much. And okay, then it's actually very clarifying for me because she asks us to do an exercise of list the 10 ways you are the meanest to yourself. And I did that. And I realized I have been avoiding writing because I have such a critical autopilot narrative happening in the background still with like personal, free form, creative writing. So I think there's like, I still sense that I am avoiding giving myself the time that I want to do the Substack. And like by doing one this weekend, I think that healed and turned a mirror back to myself on why that process was so hard. And all of it is just self-imposed critiques. So yeah.
But even if they're self-imposed, it doesn't like make them less real. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, totally.
yeah. Like it still takes work to take them down, even if we put them there ourselves.
Okay, so Jen, so you produce a lot of creative work. Okay, I want to open this door first and we'll go back. But do you get self-critiques? Like, does that come up in your autopilot? Or do you feel like you've worked with that enough? Like, you've produced so many creative projects over the last like decade or two, and I'm in so much awe, and I feel like I'm just starting this journey. And I'm just curious, like, what does that process look like for you? Do you have self-critiques or does it like flow so much with so much ease? That's what I'm imagining.
My gosh, I don't even know how to answer this. Okay, I mean, both and so much self-critique too. Oh, wow. What a question. I would say I mean, of course I have so much critique. I mean, some of my strongest critiques are like, what are you doing trying to even start something new? Like you're just like going to be creating a huge junk pile that you can't even sort through at the end. Like that's a critique that I have. It's like you have too much going on, stop, like, or like the rug's gonna get pulled out from under you. You're not gonna maintain. And like that is like a struggle that I do have for sure, managing everything, staying consistent. And this is an area where I would say I'm growing into and finding a lot of freedom in, because I realized that like there's this narrative that a lot of creatives have of like starting a lot of things and not finishing them. Okay. And I think that narrative is so commonplace and so easy to grab when you have something that starts to fall away. And so that's kind of how I've perceived myself a lot. Like I would like look back and I would see all these things that maybe I didn't follow through the way that I wanted to, or maybe that I did follow through, but then didn't keep making my life about that thing, Like I moved on to the next thing. And so I stopped promoting the thing and the thing trailed off, like went into distant memories. And if that is my focus in my view, and if I compare myself to the people that are like going around and saying like, well, I've been working at this for 10 years. And so now like it might look like an overnight success, but it's because I've stuck with this for 10 years, And I'm like, yeah, I might never have that story. But I do have a 10-year story for like working at creative things, and I have control of my voice. I know what I want to say. I have perspective. I have the ability to see things. I have the ability to name things. I have the ability to navigate ambiguity because I have created a lot of things. So I'm not like I I do feel very in touch with my creative power and voice and place in the world. I do feel very in touch with that. And I also have so much fear that comes up every time I'm like, want to do something new, create something new, because like it's fear of what other people are going to think. Like that I will totally lose everyone, that everyone be like, I feel like I said this last week. Like Jennifer's just like a joke. She doesn't stick to anything, like, but then again, whenever I think I'm like, that is so not true. And then when I talk to people that are actually experience my work, it's so confirming to me that like the reason why I'm able to help people and do good work is like specifically because of my journey and my path. And like
Yes.
it and so then I'm like, okay, like this is my path. But yeah, I mean, when I write my newsletter, I mean I go in ebbs and flows. Like you've been on my newsletter. I have not been good at like staying consistent for long periods of time. Um But then I think about my life and I'm like, how unfair of me to myself to expect me to have been consistent because I
Silly.
didn't realize it at the time. But now that I have a little bit distance, when I see where
Yeah.
I was at life when I started the newsletter and I was working full time and I had a baby and a toddler. And who, guess what? I was the one that put both those kids to sleep. I was the one that put them back to sleep when they woke up in the night. I was the one nursing my son like 10 times during the night because he
Mm.
wouldn't eat in the
Mm.
day. He only ate at night. Like, what? And I was launching a business. Like, I was creating my exit plan so that I could start a coaching business to leave. So, like, that's the situation I started in. And like at the time I was like, I need to do this. I want to do this. And I did need to do it. Like for myself, I needed to do it. I needed to get back in touch with my voice. I needed to publish. But like after a certain period of time passed, that need was coming from a different place. It was coming from this is how you run a successful newsletter. This is how you monetize a newsletter. You publish, you do these things. You set up these workflows so that people will subscribe to you and share. And then as soon as my motivation and the pressure becomes from an external source, which is interesting because I wrote about this in my newsletter this week. But
Ooh.
like as soon as like an external pressure comes on, I like there's not a very big time frame between that and me changing how things are going.
My gosh. Wait.
So like
Okay.
with a newsletter, that would mean that I would just all of a sudden stop sending it for a couple months
Okay.
until I got back in touch with what I wanted and what I wanted to say and just detangling it from like what a newsletter was supposed to be.
That's so beautiful. And I was gonna say, Jen, how did this thought just came to me. It's like they're staying consistent, but then there's also just staying true to yourself and true to the evolving human and soul and life circumstances that are, pushing us in different ways.
It
Jen,
is. Oh, go ahead. You might
well,
ask
yeah,
your question.
I do have another question. Do you think you have any inkling of what the payoff is for that myth to come around and be like, oh, we've started too many things? Like, is there a payoff that a fear voice gets sometimes?
Okay. I'm not sure if I understand what you mean by that.
Yeah. For example, I was like, oh, if I critique myself so heavily and then I don't write, the payoff is I don't need to hear my critiquing thoughts if I don't write. Like, I don't need to hear myself be mean to myself. That's the payoff that I get for then letting the fear dominate what I'm going to do that day.
Okay. Yeah, I would say then the payoff the fear gets of saying like, "Oh, I'm doing too many things," would be then the release of needing to follow it through. It's like, well, then none of this matters. Then you don't actually need to do it, you know? If you're just adding stuff on and overwhelming yourself, none of it needs to actually be done. It's not actually your work to do. Um,
Mm.
and then that actually becomes a helpful lens too, because then I can be like, well, no, I know this thing is my work. I know this thing is my work. And if all of them are my work to do, which I would say I feel that way about a lot of things right now, it's like I can't do all of them right now. And so I need to trust that some things will wait. And if I get really strong ideas about that thing, I can just document it and put it somewhere and trust that it will be there when I get back. And if not, the things that I know right now require my attention and time, like then that's what I can focus on today.
Oh, that's so good. I love that so much. That just feels like removing urgency from the equation. And I just continue to think that urgency is I just have beef with urgency all the time. Um, and there are certain circumstances where urgency is good, but in general, I love that you're giving yourself the gift of it's not quite slowness, it's just letting the things take
Mm.
up space that need to take up space at the time.
And I want to maybe add another flavor to this too, because
Yeah.
I had a wonderful experience yesterday. That's sort of the opposite of this, and I think this is what Julia is talking about with possibility too, and like taking
Mm.
yourself seriously.
Mm.
Because last week I was solving some problems with my business structure and my offerings. Okay. And I knew there was a gap in my offer suite, like a more like middle of the ground cohort option. And I was working on it and I was talking with some of my clients about my work and what they might want. So I was like getting information and then I got an idea. And the idea was like, oh, this is such a good idea. And also, it's not an idea that I felt I could do on my own. There was another coach who I was like, this coach is kind of doing this work already. And I've experienced it and it's what I would want to do. And maybe we partner because she hasn't launched the next evolution of this. Okay.
Mm.
And and I was like, that would make me be able to make this offer if it was like a partner thing. And so I then, instead of it sitting in my head, because actually I will say the first fear that came to my mind was like, you can't create that program because that is going to look like a ripoff of this other program that you just participated in. It's going to look like you took that idea and ran with it. And then I was like, no, I mean, I did. I sensed a ton in that program, a ton of opportunity, a ton of like, whoa, this is material I want to keep working with. But then also I was like, no, it would be so dynamic to build this with somebody else. Like, holy cow. So I just sent an email. I literally sent it as I was waiting for my kid to come out of preschool. You know, like it was not well but I just sent it because I was like, if I don't send this now with the belief that like there's potential for collaboration here and this is the energy that I want, then like next week I might not do it. She responds over the weekend. Yesterday we got on a call, we talked through it. And you know what? It was not an obvious yes. I mean, the alignment was not there, but at the very end of the call, something shifted and a totally different entry point came. And all of a sudden, there was an opportunity to potentially collaborate on something that
Oh
felt.
my God.
And as it came up in the conversation, mentally, I literally saw this like, it was like a banner held up by some strings of the program that I thought that this was all about. And it was literally like the strings just got cut and it blew into the wind. And it was like, that was stepping stone.
Wow.
And I don't know what the next thing will be. So it's like, I think there's a
Wow.
both and. There's like, I do think you need to take your ideas seriously and put them somewhere. If it requires other people, like you need to speak them sometimes, but then letting go of the control of the outcome and sticking to the things that you can actually control. Like I could control reaching out. I could control voicing the idea. I could control whether I was seeing myself as competitive or collaborative. Yeah. And never would have imagined where the conversation ended up. Never could have imagined
Gosh.
that.
Jen, I love that story. Oh man. It's so often that our brains trick us into thinking about some sort of outcome. And I think that you just articulated so incredibly what happens or what can happen when you just focus on, I don't know, like you have this future idea, but you weren't dwelling on it, letting go of the outcome attachment, as you said, and then just taking the call. And I would say that brings us back being on this river of flow and just letting the flow happen from your spark of inspiration and just not questioning it and just acting on it, acting on it.
Yes.
Oh,
I want to hear more about the flow. How does the flow what did you just call it?
The
the
river of
river
flow,
the river of flow. I
finding the
don't
river. Yeah.
finding the river of flow. Like, how do you experience that?
How do I experience the river flow? I think for me, what it has involved or required most recently has been surrender. Um, Surrender to outcomes looking a little differently, but trusting that everything played out in a specific way to help me for my growth, learning, and upliftment. Um, and starting to say yes to more new activities. In New York, one of the artist dates that I went on was a figure drawing class with my friends who both went to art school. And there was a model in the middle, and they were nude. And that's the first time that I had ever done that. And it was just an entirely new and different experience that it's like I had to let go of so many things in that class. I've never really, I mean, sometimes I sketch, but I have never taken figure drawing classes. So to, just try to put the pencil down on the paper and attempt to draw what I was seeing when it was just coming out all kinds of ways. I think there's a big theme here for me right now in deconstructing perfectionism. And that was such a great exercise to bend me further into letting go and noticing what else comes from that experience, like noticing the quietness of the classroom, noticing that everybody was drawing something that spoke to them. There was kind of this like silent meditative feel where it just gave so much permission to then let me just experience what parts of her body are talking to me. Um, how does it feel to work with this charcoal versus this pencil? So I think for me, River of Flow is starting to sink into things of how it feels and different textures of the experience versus thinking about the outcome.
Oh, I'm curious what drew you to that class.
So my friend, the real answer is that she came to visit me last year and she had the fun idea. I talked about us doing watercolors together on the floor, and then she said, "Oh, Jess, actually, I could sketch you if you wanted." And I had no idea that she could sketch figures so incredibly well. It is amazing. So we positioned the lamplight and I did a pose. And she sketched me in this beautiful drawing. And oh my gosh, ever since then, that was maybe 6 months ago, and I thought, if I go visit you, let's go do this. And now, anyway, jumping ahead for a second, but I'm like, ooh, where is this opportunity in San Francisco? Because I just found it so healing on so many different levels. And there's also just like a slowness and an appreciation of the human body that I had just drawing this model. It was just, yeah, something I really want to weave in more as an artistry practice this season.
I love that. Um, I took a figure drawing class in Albuquerque, and that was actually my first class that I did since high school. And it was a through the university, like a continuing ed class. So it was like 6 weeks long or something. Um, but I found it to be a beautiful and transformative experience too. And I also met one of my best friends in Albuquerque in that class, and we became friends. And then the pandemic hit right after that. And I was so glad to have met someone right then, and then I hadn't done anything for a long time, but yeah, I think thank you for sharing some of your thoughts on that, because I just found my sketches from that class last
No
week when I
way.
was like organizing, and I saw them and I was like, wow, that was like, I don't know if I could put into words really what was moving about it, but something
Mm.
really is.
Moving, that's such a good word.
I don't like it's so I feel like I'm a little resistant to it just being about like the vulnerability that there's a nude person standing there that you're drawing, but I think there is an element to that too. And then like to be being seen, like I think there's that part of it. It's like I
Yes.
was like found myself just so curious about the models. I think there was two different ones and I was like, wow, like what would it take for me to sign up and be like, I'll be a model?
Yeah.
Like I was just like, that is fascinating. And I love that. And also, like, I'm not planning to sign up to be a nude model anywhere, but I feel like I can also relate to making myself very vulnerable and being seen in other ways. Um,
Mm, mm. Yeah, about being seen. If you were to finish that thought, what would that be?
oh my gosh. Well, let's just bring it back to the chapter of like letting yourself be seen is like the root of possibility.
Oh, oh my God, mic drop.
Like, it's probably the most
Oh my
essential
God,
ingredient.
Jen, fabulous. Okay, love it. Okay, continue. Mm,
Oh yeah, like let's think about all of the barriers, all of the things that keep you from taking yourself seriously. Like literally
mm.
making yourself seen is how you take yourself seriously.
Ooh.
Like
Mm-hmm.
saying the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Last night I was drafting a bunch. My brain was on fire and I was drafting all of these things that I think will be LinkedIn posts. And I'm like, holy cow. My like swearing, whenever I'm like writing really good, I cannot stop swearing, but I'm trying not to. Like, it's just, I was like literally just like, I don't even know the expletive. What's the word?
Uh, expletive.
Expletive. Like, this is so good. But it was me writing them at like 11:30 at night alone. And then I was like, this terrifies me to say this. And I was like, and that's
Ooh.
how I know it's good.
Oh my God. Yes, yes, yes. Ooh.
We'll see when the dawn comes these go live, but yeah, I think there's so much risk because and like permission and that's what I was like kind of coming to terms and what I was writing about because I am writing on LinkedIn to try and attract the people that are ready to like make big changes in their lives. And so it's
Mm,
like the writing needs to be in that energy and show what's possible and like the stakes that I'm talking about, the stakes that I work with. And so it's like it's intense and I am like this immediately totally makes me think like the narrative is like, well, who does she think she is to say that? And then I'm like I am me. I am me. Like this is real. This is me. This is my life. This is what I do. This is what I've done. This is how I think. This is what I say. This is what I have said. These are the actions that I've taken. These are the results I've had. Like this is truth. And like I do not need permission from anybody to say these things, to claim them. And like that is daunting because there is no barrier. There is no barrier from me being me and who I want to be. There is no barrier from me and my current reality and the better reality that I want tomorrow. You know what I mean? There is no
mm,
barrier except for
mm.
anything that I limit myself by.
Great.
But to do it does feel risky like that. I mean, that is, I guess that's the barriers, like tolerance for risk. And
Mm,
we all have different influencing factors that determines that comfort. So it's not
sure.
like everybody's big swing needs to look the same. But um, if I'm honest with myself about where I'm at in my life and what I want next, it's like, I think I'm ready to go?
Yeah. Yeah. Like yeah, when you feel that in all of your cells, deep in your gut. Um, Jen, have you ever written something and then just published it without waiting a day?
Yes. Um, yes. I would say most most of my writing goes that way.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah, sometimes I work on it a little bit. Sometimes I'm journaling about the thoughts and thinking through like what the like point is I'm trying to touch, but then usually when I write it and send it. I really don't schedule out anything.
Mm.
So even when I was thinking of these LinkedIn posts, I was like getting the basic idea there because I was like, I need to document what's spinning in my mind. But then if I know it's the good, smart workflow to batch a bunch of content and have it scheduled. It doesn't feel like right to me. I feel like I need to like write and publish.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if that means I lose a couple strategy points as far as like what I'm saying, I think the truth radar truth level is
Mhm.
more what I would want to optimize for than do all my posts this month make sense together.
Yes. Oh, I love that because in my mind, you're publishing the energy with your written words. And I'm guilty sometimes, it depends, of waiting and oh, let me look at this 2 days from now. And then usually that's fine. Like I can like I'm thinking for a case study, I can see clearly a little bit more the shape of the story I'm trying to tell. But it's also funny because we hear all these things about working in content, how you need to have a calendar built, 4 to 6 weeks in advance, or like honestly, I've been asked to build a content calendar for an entire quarter. So that's 3 months. And I'm always sitting there doing it. And by week 4, I'm like, the rest of this just feels kind of made up because why do we get so much messaging on having so many things planned out? And I think that is to help, I don't know, everybody else feel comfortable and safe and like, oh, there's a plan and here's schedule and here's what we know is going to happen. But often that content calendar for me, usually I would say 99% of the time is changing at least 3 weeks out because something new is happening in the market. We want to respond to that. And yeah, it's made me really start to re-examine, why, I don't know, when we're getting these messages of strategy and planning. And actually, Jen, it's funny because as you were talking about that, it's like maybe the strategy is capturing the energy. And then I was thinking, like, people look at LinkedIn. It's not quite like Twitter where you see successive tweets. Well, Twitter X has changed a lot, but I feel like if there's one post from you that I liked, I would go and then deep dive and read all of your posts to see the energy in all of them, even if I was going back and then just pouring through them. And I love that. I'm always like, oh, my favorite person's has so much to go through, and then I get to just soak it all up. Um, so I think that's really beautiful.
I am really, really intrigued by what you were saying in there of mhm, the like external pressure because like that kind of even goes like you're like why are we doing like you as the one that is actually responsible for the content does not need to do this planning. That does not make you
Oh,
the successful person, but you need to do it because you need to get the buy-in, you need to get the
yeah,
permission of somebody else, and it's putting this pressure on you to change what you could actually do. You know what I mean? That's so crazy.
mm,
That's like the workplace, that's like this extrapolated out into like how it works in systems with
yeah,
people. It's like you are you're and like then you're sorry, maybe wasting's not the right word, but it's like you are devoting energy then towards like creating these deliverables for other
yeah,
people rather than like what you could be doing on your actual craft and area of expertise.
absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yes. And it's so funny because uh yeah, I don't know how I feel about talking about tech on this podcast, but I do feel compelled to talk about it sometimes. And what often a company wants to see from a really great blog post or a really great calendar of work, a library of work that they are proud of, or a really great video. It's so at odds. Like the prioritization of perfection and urgency is, in my mind, at complete odds with a lot of beautiful, authentic, creative, meaningful, inspired work. And I don't know. I like, as I say that out loud, I'm hearing a total argument that I think it's just coming from conditioning of like, no, urgency is great. Like you just need to get it out there. And perfection is like, how are people going to trust you and even be interested in your brand? So I can argue in my head both sides so easily right now, which
Totally, but
just yeah.
which makes it impossible then to, or not impossible, but like so challenging to do that in a workplace environment because it's not a clear side that you can choose and be like, this is the way that you do it all the time. Like there is
Mm.
nuance involved. And so it's like you can't advocate that like we will always post off the cuff things for the brand because you're like, it doesn't work. Like that doesn't work in that setting. But I think at the personal level, when you're talking about your own work and the things that you have control over, it can. And so like maybe that's like, well, I know that if I need to get this brief to the person, I can just write the brief from my heart directly, send it out there. I don't need to like start the brief a week before and review it and review it. And I don't know. Or like if it's, your own projects, then it's like what is true to you because you're the one that you're accountable to in the end. That's I
Yeah.
think just like what makes workplaces hard. And it's not to say that we shouldn't be a part of them or do anything. It's just like the way you work completely has to change when you have a team you're working with.
Yeah. 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 Um, oh my gosh. I've been looking at the recording timer this entire time, which says 54 minutes. And I did not see that it's 10 o'clock PT. Um, oh my God, Jen, what a great conversation. Is there anything you want to close out on?
I feel pretty settled. How about you, Jess? You have something, I think.
Well, it was more of a question for you. I don't know if you'll have an answer, but it felt like a fun question that I really wanted to open with, which we just got derailed because everything was fun. Um, Jen, when has possibility or abundance exceeded your expectations? Or like, have you experienced that before? And
Yes. I'm going to keep it at yes.
okay, beautiful. I love
Jess,
that.
how about you?
Yes, yes. And I feel like I'm in the process again right now.
Mm,
So
beautiful. Thank you, Jess.
thanks, Jen.